PBS.
The Ponder Heart is a wonderful book, and a wonderful book to make a movie out of. It's just, Welty writes just incredibly vivid characters with great, great personalities, very, very actable, very playable, and very wonderful storylines with a lot of plot turns that make the piece very unique for a television piece. It's very funny, and it has a lot of depth. And a lot of truth, and it's very, very entertaining. So I've had a great time, and it's fabulous to be doing it in Mississippi, which is, of course, the real place.
The atmosphere, for example, where we're shooting here today in this house, is a sort of catches, and it puts the actors and the actresses in a feeling for what they're talking about, and see some old rusted tin on a building here and there. I lived through the 30s, so it kind of looks like them.
It takes you back as an actor to that time in a funny way. It's almost like, you know, having a time travel experience. And it's wonderful because it helps you get rid of the sort of urbanisms that we all acquire from what we're exposed to through television and everything, and get back to a much quieter time when relationships with people were so important, and the communication between people was done through words and through how they spoke to each other, and they rarely used the telephone.
She wanted a telephone put in, now she's too scared to answer.
Found the place. Hey, Mr. Daniel. Yes, she here. Yes, sir, I tell her just like you said. Bye. That was Mr. Daniel.
What do you want?
He said, tell Miss Bonnie D, if she don't take me back, I'm gonna kill her dead.
Is that all?
Peter MacNicol was always everybody's first choice for Uncle Daniel. He's got a kind of a elfin, otherworldly quality that Uncle Daniel has. Uncle Daniel is kind of a spirit person who lives in a protected reality, who everyone knows would cause no harm, and he brings joy to people's lives, but of course leaves in his wake a series of problems that everyone else has to solve, which is what this story is all about.
Daniel was born very late in life to Grandpa Ponder and his wife, and in the book they tell about, and they do in the movie, that when he was little they used to let him skate on the dining room table. So he's always kind of had his own way, and that's the problem.
And Peter has that kind of offhanded, joyful charm that Uncle Daniel needs.
Couldn't y'all just eat her with a spoon?
Oh, then give me a hand. Oh, you're doing it.
Now, Miss Tea-Cake, don't you be angry with that Earl.
Daniel.
I know, and it's all my fault. And I'm just so sorry if I've spoiled your wedding day. Yeah.
Daniel?
Now, Papa, it was your idea to get married. Honey, sugar, let Papa look at the rest of you. As an actor, I respond to the extravagance of the characters. They're flamboyant and quietly mad. The dialogue is always surprising and a little skewed certainly from naturalism.
I like you quite well.
Well, I like you.
But I think it would be best if we could just try this marriage thing out for a little while first.
Well, it's too late to try it out. We've already set our vows.
Well, what if it was just sweethearts for a while?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we haven't really had much of a courtship, come to think of it. But, yeah, I mean, just tell me when the time is right. And...
Thank you, Mr. Ponder. And congratulations on your marriage.
Oh. It's very compelling for an actor, these characters, because they're so recognizable and yet so dramatically different from anybody we normally encounter. They're familiar and yet extremely exotic.
Jo Beth Williams as Edna Earl is great because Edna is, of course, the forgotten woman, the woman who takes care of everything. She's not the apple of Grandpa's eye. She's the responsible one. She's taking care of Daniel and Grandpa at this point. She's the great worrier and the great planner and schemer with all the Southern charm and yet a great mind. And Jo Beth has all of that.
Well, I fell in love with Edna Earl when I read the script. She's such a strong character. She's such a smart woman who's sort of the one that everybody in the family relies on to take care of everything.
Edna, I'm going to trouble you for some serious conversation.
I can't recall any type of conversation with you ever giving me any trouble at all.
I'm on the go down, granddaughter. You heard what the doctor said.
8.5 years ago, he told you the same thing, and it turned out to be indigestion from eating a whole pan of Narcissus crackling bread.
Not this time. I want you to promise me something. I want you to promise me that you will look out after Daniel when I'm gone.
You know I will. Don't I always? She's a woman who I think is a very modern woman in certain ways. If she'd been born now, she'd be a very strong career woman. I find her strength wonderful, and her humor and her compassion. And there are times when she's a little stuck up and snobbish, and, you know, she has a certain sort of viewpoint toward the Peacocks, who are not an upper-class family.
You left without saying goodbye today.
Well, I never expected to be ordered out of that house by a peacock. And I think she's funny in that respect. And I think that's one of the things that Ms. Welty captures so well, is the feeling in a small town of how there's a certain sort of class structure and there's a certain way that you're supposed to behave. And Edna Earl is very conscious of that.
It must be real nice to own a hotel. And most of the town, according to Handsome here.
Contrary to rumor, we burned our cotton just like everybody else when the Yankees came traipsing through here. I think looking back on Edna Earl as women of our age, we feel that she was a victim. We feel, oh, well, she was, you know, expected to take care of everyone, and she wasn't allowed to express herself, and she was very smart, and she didn't get to really use that. But I don't think Edna Earl felt that herself. I think in those days, it was so much a part of the society and so much a part of the family situation that she took a certain pride in being the one that everybody turned to. I think she enjoyed having that kind of control and that kind of power. And I think every once in a while, when she was trying to make certain things happen and they got away from her, got out of control, it was quite upsetting to her, because her sense of self and her sense of accomplishment came from making sure that everybody was happy, everybody was in the place where they should be, and as she felt they should be. So today she'd be a good boss, and in those days she was a sort of good boss of a family. It's you I came to see.
I work very personally when I work. I identify with Eudora Welty. I think that she was a very brilliant woman living in a time when women were somewhat constricted in what they could do, and that's extremely apparent in this piece. To a great degree, the undercurrents of this piece are about entrapment and, you know, trapped people. It's not just the blacks, it's the women and the underprivileged, and all of that gives such juice to the comedy.
All right, all right. Tar! Blue! Okay, all right, all right.
I didn't blame Bonnie D. Didn't blame her for a minute. Uncle Daniel carried that child out there and set her down in a big house, and she wasn't used to it. He was older than she was, he was prominent, and he was never there.
The Southern writers are our poets, really, in America, and it is the tragic, poetic complex, intelligent truth about so much of our lives, and yet the way the Southerner sees things and the way the Southerner speaks is so unique.
I had read the book a long time ago, and I've always liked Eudora Welty's writing quite a lot. I found it very evocative, very touching. Her words have a certain music to them. The language really evokes the South of that period, and so it's fun to play with them. It's a juicy thing for an actor to get a hold of, and I think that's why we're all here. I mean, Peter MacNicol and Jennifer Lewis and all of the actors are wonderful actors, and I think we're all having a great time together, getting to say these words and create these people. And of course, we're here in Ms. Welty's land, which is wonderful.
The flow of her writing is so beautiful. I went back and read this book before we started this, and it's just amazing to me the way that her language flows and the scenes flow and the relationship exists, and she catches that era of the 30s in Mississippi. It's just wonderful to be.
I went to a small liberal arts college in Dallas, Texas, where we were exposed to all of the Southern writers, Flannery O'Connor and Caroline Gordon, the fugitive poets, Donald Davidson, Alan Tate, and I guess for me, most principally Eudora Welty. She's, I don't know if we could almost regard her as kind of the poet laureate of Mississippi and maybe the whole American South.
I feel her presence here very strongly, and in fact, all of the extras on the movie seem to know Eudora Welty. Everybody knows her. She seems to be a very popular lady who is, gotten somewhat frail, but has had relationships with a lot of people in the towns, and so there's a real sense of her and a sense of the land that she was writing about and how that fed these characters.